And he created it from various systems of energy psychology. And basically, it can solve your heart problem. When you do the deep Peat method, which some people have done here, it will change your life forever. Basically, it will solve your main unconscious game that you play on all levels unconsciously and unwillingly. You don't even know that you're playing it until you actually do the treatment. So Peat, basically, the technique can be applied to anything that has energy and emotional charge. Anything. We're talking about stress, phobias, resistance, anxieties, compulsiveness of any type. We talk about undesirable behavior, even habits, addictions. You can do really wonders with it. Even panic attack, jealousies, fear of public speaking, which was my thing, really. Fears in general, resistance to something or someone else. Like I have resistance towards certain emotion, or maybe I have resistance toward my neighbor. Either one. So insomnia, depression, overeating. Although I have to say, Peat is a wonderful thing for addictions. Like when we do the treatment, we always say to the client, we do 1 to 7 treatments. But 7 treatments are obligated to be done when we do addictions, like alcohol, drugs, food, obesity. And I have to say the obesity is maybe the hardest thing to remove because it's very hard to be absent from food in general when we work these things. And when we do addictions, we also recommend to the client for the next 3 months to use certain organic, homeopathic elements like wild walnut or parasites-free, the things you buy in the Whole Foods and things like that, basically to cleanse your body because sometimes you don't know how you're feeding yourself or you're actually emotionally hungry or are you feeding your parasites. There's also elements there. And basically anything that has a charge, maybe like, oh, I feel insecurity because I don't have enough money. I'm stuck in traffic, so I feel nervous. I'm irritated by my back pain. Fear of heights, snakes, sharks, whatever. You pick and choose. Not every technique is for every person, and not every, not every problem is for each technique. And that's why I'm teaching you 9 different techniques. So in a case that one technique doesn't work, then we use the other. Because whatever we do not process properly, it will become deposited psychological content in our subconscious sooner or later, and basically what will happen, it will do something, because most people think that other people create things in our lives. I'm going to explain this later, but in reality it's not. It's a suppressed emotion. Other people are just acting crowds that need, because our unconscious game, in order to be played, we need to have players. So those players are other people who are just our own mirrors. So whatever you like or you don't like about me, it's basically your own thing. But that suppressed emotion, in order to keep itself alive, will pop up when you least need it. Let's say if this is us, like I'm also using this. So our conscious is only 5%. Everything is unconscious. From 0 to 7 years old, we are in delta and theta brain waves, basically. You know how we say in psychology, children learn by modeling. So what happens, we all have certain suppressed emotions. Let's say little Billy or whatever gets in a fight with Tom, and Tom kind of smashed him or whatever, pushes him down, and he falls down, he hurts himself. And then he comes running to his mom, and he says, oh, mommy, crying, I'm hurt, I've been insulted, I'm hurt, I'm not enough, Billy or whoever told me I don't belong here, whatever the message is. And you run to your mom or dad or whoever, and they say to you, oh no, you're a boy, you should be strong, you're not supposed to feel that. So what happens? You're 3 years old, and you suppress that aspect, which is part of you, and because I'm not supposed to be that, I'm not supposed to be angry at that person, I'm not supposed to be whatever. So that one aspect is part of me, but because I'm ignoring it and I don't want it to be part of me, then I'm basically carrying it with me everywhere I go by ignoring it and by suppressing it. So let's say I'm a whole. Imagine I'm like big, round, wholeness, because we all are really whole. I'm going to explain that later in details. So what happens, that aspect that I'm carrying around me, with me everywhere I go. So I have some aspect. When I was 3 years old, I suppressed anger. When I was 4 years old, I suppressed insecurities. When I was 5 years old, I suppressed, I don't belong, I'm not good enough, whatever the message is. And that's something, that aspect of me, Jungian shadow, I can see in other people, but I can never see it in myself because I'm perfect. We're all perfect, aren't we? But other people are messed up. So that's what it is. So because I cannot see it in myself, but I can see in others. What's happening? That emotion wants to be integrated and brings me the people in my life who are expressing that emotion or expressing that thing that's provoking that certain emotion that wants to be integrated with the rest of me, because you are whole, and that's what it is. So basically what happened, these blockages are created by past negative experiences. So if from 0 to 7, we say in psychology, children learn by modeling. You cannot really hold a cigarette in your mouth, say to a child, don't smoke, But unconscious suppress, you don't suppress stuff just till 7. You suppress stuff by 33. But the thing is that the unconscious doesn't have past and future. Activates the program that has the most energy and emotional charge to it. And activates it when you least need it. Your tire doesn't blow up when you're ready for it. You don't walk and break your leg, which is called self-inflicting pain, basically, as well. It's also from subconscious. Whatever's happening in your life right now, it's a product from within. It's something that we carry from within. Whatever, it doesn't matter what situation you are right now. It's basically projection of something that you park within yourself, who knows when and who knows how. I mean, if you go to the research. So, reason why most of the law of attraction or positive movement, which is huge in America, doesn't really work, because it's only a 5%. Remember, if this is you, only 5% is conscious. And it's basically doing it on a muscle. I'm positive, I'm happy, and this and that, and I'm living half of my life because I'm ignoring the other half. Human body is a battery. You have plus and minus within you. Battery, in order to work, has to have plus and minus. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So, most people are conditioned that with negative energies negative emotions are bad for us. But in reality, if there's no negative emotion, none of you will do anything in life. You will not move your butt, because why would you do it if you're in love and everything is perfect? There's no progress in life. So plus and minus are nothing but basically the same coin with two sides. And then what happened? Trauma happens. So the small Bill, 3 years old, trauma happened, and that energy and emotional charge separated that coin in two pieces, plus and minus. You see, that's the reason most people think like, in life, let's say in life, we say, I'm pushing for good, I'm doing good, but you cannot have good without bad. How can you compare it? Let's be realistic. Let's say if I have a flashlight and I have a white wall in the daytime, you can't really see that light unless there's a dark. So you have to have an opposite in order to compare it. How do you know that you're good unless you have bad around you? How do you know that you're beautiful unless you have something that's called ugly? How do you know that anything in opposites? So we do live in duality, but we also live in oneness as well, which most people are not even aware of. And that's why you're here. Because if you're not here, if you're not ready to receive this information, you will not be here today. So this is something, I'm basically a projection of you. You created me to remind you of something that you already know. And all of this is happening. It's really, I'm just your own mirror. There's nothing else there. So going back to these suppressed emotions, what happens? So we have experiences in the present that are triggered by those emotions levels. And those emotions create circumstances in our lives. And that could be anything and anything. But you know how you're going to find out? Whatever drives you crazy in your environment, in your epigenetics, that basically it's just your thing. We're going to do some small exercise later to show if you can feel it. We can go next. Thank you so much. So basically, this is what it is. So that suppressed emotion creates circumstances in your life, and that's why we all have these drama. You're sometimes victim, prosecutor, savior, hero, whatever that is for you. We all play these games because in order for that thing to be expressed, an open mind that basically you are the main writer, director, and producer of your own life, and the main life script that you're living. Unfortunately, you've been borrowing five, six things from your mom, dad, grandpa, neighbors, friends, whoever, and then you're living their script, and that's why you're not feeling good. Do you see what I'm saying? When you're in balance with yourself, there's nothing that can get you out of balance if you're yourself. But whatever's bothering you, picked up from somebody else. Because in reality, you're whole. You can be anything and anything and everything. But we pick up these things, mentality, whatever you believe right now, none of that is yours. None. Give me one belief. You picked it up from somewhere at a time when it makes sense. And in order for belief to exist, you need to find proof for it. And then you go out and your unconscious finds the proof. There's no options. It is so simple. So we all play these games. We run into this vicious circle. How many friends, I'm not going to say you, God forbid, but how many friends do you have who have the same story? It's always a victim. Oh, always somebody's chasing it. Oh, always this, always that. I was a victim, by the way. That was my role for a very long time. So it always somebody else's fault. None of it is mine. God forbid it's my fault. Do you see what I'm saying? So we always place these, we always dating the same person with a different face. It's a typical thing in America, don't we? So when you find out what is it about that person, because people come to your life for two reasons. One, to make you aware of what is it within you that you have to work on. And another one, to help you excel to the points that you didn't know existed, to show you what's possible. Either one is good. Thank you. Anyway, so once you integrate these things, like when I did a treatment on myself, now I have a freedom to be cheap or to be generous. But it's conscious freedom. Before, I had no freedom for it. Before, it was compulsive, impulsive, and it will create drama. Now, when circumstances happen to my life, I can choose per situation what's appropriate. And that's the thing. Because once you internalize and neutralize that energy, you create change in your subconscious and unconscious level. And by the way, psychology is nothing else but removing energy and emotional charge from a problem. That's all it is. And you will still remember something that happened to your life. But it will no longer, okay, let's ask you a question. You guys remember what you had for dinner 10 days ago? Does anybody remember what you had for dinner? No. But can I ask you something? If somebody proposed to you, would you remember details? Oh, yes. If somebody beat you up, God forbid, would you remember details? Oh, I remember. So we remember only things that have an emotional and energy charge attached to it. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. It's only emotional energy charge. But that trauma, what we do, we take trauma from the past because it's only memory, and we take it into the present, and then we remove energy and emotional charge from that. And once we remove energy and emotional charge, problem is gone forever. And then that trauma, same as that dinner 10 days ago. You had that dinner, did you? Yeah. That trauma will go away, same way as that dinner did in your mind. So for a while, you're going to remember it for a couple of whatever days. On a cognitive level, let's say an example. I'm giving my examples. I had this wonderful relationship with this guy. It was magical, perfect, the best thing in my life that happened. And I'm blessed because it's a gift from God. But it was misunderstanding. So we broke it off, and a month and a half, I was devastated, really not feeling well. So my godfather, who's in Santa Barbara, he said, oh, aren't you the queen of the Peat method? Why don't you do one on yourself? But the reality is I was so devastated, I had no strength to do it. So I asked my friends, because this method has something called surrogate positioning, which means somebody else can do treatment in your behalf, and you get results. So I called 5, because I have thousands of people who I trained. So I called 5 people who I know they're the best. So I called them up, and I gave everybody the same homework. It was Thursday night. So I said, guys, I'm going to bed. I don't feel good. I have no strength to do the treatment on me. Can you please do the treatment on me? And I gave them the elements that are necessary for the treatment. I go to bed. I wake up on Friday morning. I got to tell you, a month and a half, I was wasted. I mean, I was for nothing. I was like, you could do whatever you want to do. I had no interest in whatsoever. Friday morning, I'm waking up with a smile on my face, like nothing happened. On a cognitive level, I knew that I had the best relationship of my life, till now. You know, future's still open. But on emotional, there was nothing there. There's no energy or emotional charge whatsoever. That's how powerful the things are. And I saw him a week later. So when he came in, I was like, oh my God, what a handsome guy. But that was it. There was nothing there for me or for him. One beautiful thing about these techniques is that you can never hurt anybody. Because when the girls did the treatment on him, or me, they treated him as well. Whoever's involved, we have to treat everybody who's involved in a problem. And they removed the charge from him. So, because he went with me in Europe, and he knows, he watched a bunch of my workshops and seminars and things like that. He knew people that I was hiring to do the treatment on us. So he was sitting in a chair next to me, and we were talking like, you know, as if I saw him for the first time. So, and I told him, you know, Milena and all the other girls back in Europe, they did Magdalena, They did a treatment on us, and you know the girls. So, and he was like, when would that happen? I said, Thursday night to Friday. He was like, I felt that because he felt that too. So they removed it from him. And you know what? He said that Saturday night, he met somebody special. And I was like, wow, good for you. And I was really happy for him because there's no charge. There's nothing that's holding me on to him. You see what I'm saying? That's how powerful the techniques are. So something that was very stressful for you, after the treatment, will become the empty, neutralized memory and will disappear slowly, just like that dinner 10 days ago. Thank you. So we all know what Tesla stated, that everything around us is energy, frequency, and vibration. There's nothing else really. If you take any atom of your body and you analyze it, you're going to find what? Just energy. And what's emotion? Emotion, energy in motion. That's what it is. Emotions are just energy who are in motion. So with these techniques, we remove them. So all the repressed thoughts and emotion that we created during their life, and there's plenty of those, by the way. Do not expect if you do one treatment, you're going to solve all your problems, by the way. They're going to be popping up. And when you do the deep Peat for the first time, then it's going to be like Pandora box because you won't have that negative game anymore, the circle going in it, and you're going to have more time and more energy, which you can use for solving new stuff that pops up. But basically, what's extraordinary about these techniques? Protocol is extremely fast. Something that takes you years of therapy, basically you can solve in 1 to 7 treatments. Something, okay, when you go to psychologists, from here, she's one of the best psychologists in LA, and she said, Tatiana, how can you say that? Like, when people come to me, they feel good and, I improve their life. I say, yeah, within a period of 18 years on average. They come to you twice a week, and then in average lasts 6 to 18 years. In America, in Europe, it's 3 to 6 years, according to the last conference of psychologists and psychotherapists. So what this is allows you, yeah, you might feel good when you go to a psychologist or you talk to your friend because, especially if you're a woman, you release oxytocin, serotonin, so you feel better, but in reality, you're not solving the cause of the problem. As Nikola Tesla stated, every time you talk about something, that something you talk about becomes stronger, bigger, and even more installed into your psyche. It does not go anywhere. You're feeding it with your own energy. So keep talking about your neighbor that drives you crazy. So that's just a good idea. Also, another thing about Peat is that this is confidential, which is the greatest thing in LA. Everybody loves it because I can solve your problem without even knowing what is it that you're solving. That's the best quality about it. And that's what makes it. You tell me what hurts, and I'll tell you what's the cause of it. Now we know that psychosomatically, everything is interconnected. Your body basically accumulates every single thing that's happening to you that you're suppressing within yourself. So one more thing that I haven't seen in any other technologies that are out there, especially when it comes to psychology, it's when we solve the problem with the client, and the client tells you 6 times, by the way, during the process. It's not like he goes home and he doesn't know if he solved it or not. He confirms 6 times that the problem is no longer theirs. Then we ask the client, opposition, is anything within you that's resisting or opposing for you to solve this problem so fast and so easy? Let's say you're solving the anger towards your boss. That was your subject. So maybe insecurities can pop up, maybe jealousy. Who knows what other stuff pops up? It comes up from unconscious. It's not on a conscious level. If something else pops up, we are solving that with another protocol. So we're doing it from scratch, like doing a totally new treatment. Second thing we ask the client is, do you believe that this problem might come back in the future without your consent? If a client says, I don't know, maybe, we do it. Only when they say no, then we do not do the future now. Because what's happening? We're taking a trauma from the past, we're bringing it to now, and we solve it. Same thing with the future. We take the thing from the future, your projection of the future, because everything is just projection and conflict, constructs that we have about life and other people in general. So we take the thing from the future, bring it to now, and solve it now, so it never happens in the future again for you. And the third thing that we ask the client is anybody else involved in the problem? Let's say, yeah, my boss, and my coworkers, whoever is involved in the problem. In that case, what we do is called circular processing or meta-positioning. What it means that you get in the point of view of that person, and you'll be amazed how overwhelmed you're going to be with certain emotions that they were not familiar to till that point. And then once you get into that point, first of all, you're going to realize that that's all yours. Nothing belongs to anybody else but you in general, because it's all about you anyway. But you will realize, and you will remove the charge from that other person. And what's happening, I just had last time I did a workshop in Belgrade, actually. There was a guy who had a problem with his wife because she was jealous, she was killing him, she was making his life miserable, blah, blah, blah. So the guy comes in and he solves the problem with jealousy. First, we did it from his position, and then, is anybody else involved? Yeah, my wife. So the guy comes in her point of view, and he gets all that loads of energy of jealousy. When he finished, and by the way, he started laughing halfway through. He was like, oh my God, this is mine, isn't it? I created a wife in my life to show me what is it that I could never see in myself. You see, playing games. He was basically a victim and a prosecutor, but he created his wife to prosecute him so he can feel the victim. Do you see the game that we're playing in vicious circles? That's what it is. So we basically do the process from meta positioning. And what I said before, reality is you never, ever have a relationship with other people. You only have a relationship with your constructs and your projections about these other people. Once you change those, then you change the relationship. Because those people have no idea what's going on in your mind. And they cannot act in any other way but the way your projections and constructs are. Have any of you have experience in life where you went somewhere and you were like, you come home and you say, oh my God, was that me? You behave out of your character, supposedly. Why? Because expectation of that other person that you are so and so and so and so are so strong that you have no options. For example, so her interpretation, I'm always on time, but when she's a question, then I have to be late. Why? Because her interpretation of me that I'm always late. With her, because I don't love her enough. Do you see what I'm saying? That's what we do. It's also my game and it's her game. By the way, my sister's a genius. Like now I come to her and say, oh, by the way, you should fix this. She said, oh, if you notice it, that means that's your problem. That's, she is really a genius. And another thing that these techniques offer, it's what I said before, surrogate processing, which means that somebody else can do treatment in your behalf. Let's say I'm running to a meeting. Oh, by the way, I already hired some people already to do treatment so I can do this smoothly. So I called him today and I said, okay, I'm going to do this seminar. And I don't want, because in the past I had issues with public speaking. Some emotions will pop up that I'm not familiar with, that I'm very familiar with, but they're not desirable emotions. So I called two people and I said, could you guys do the treatment on my behalf? And they're doing it right now, actually, as we speak. So as we go, it's going to be getting better and better. So it's going to be more fun, ideally. So when it comes to relationship, let's do one exercise. Can we just pair it? Done with lecture. This is it. So whatever it is that you saw in that other person, it basically belongs to you. It's your own thing. Has nothing to do with that other person. And there's no coincidences that you guys sit right next to that person. There's no coincidence because we always set to a person with the same energy frequency. As Nikola Tesla said, everything's frequency, vibration, and energy. And we always sit with people, regardless of how that feels. Sometimes I have people say, oh, by the way, sometimes I'm happy-go-lucky, get out of my house, and then something happens, and I end up in a fight or whatever. Either way, whatever that person is provoking within you, it could be the emotion that's suppressed, and that's why you're sitting next to that person, or it could be your own emotion that needs to be integrated. Either way. Remember what I was talking about integration, like a Jungian shadow? Like whatever you don't like about other people, basically it's your own thing. That's how you get to know yourself the best. Just write down things you like or you don't like about people you're surrounded with, and you get your own personal description. And then from that list, you can integrate one by one, and then you have a freedom to be whatever you want to be. Till then, you basically do not have a free will, by the way. You do not have a free will until you do the deep Peat method, until you're done with the unconscious game. That's the scary part. And not that many people have done the deep Peat method, unfortunately. So, yeah, you will achieve basically drama-free life. And another thing which is happening with the Peat, After you solve that issue, you'll have more time and more energy, which right now it's lacking. And changes in life are profound. And then you can write your own script. You don't have to borrow other people's scripts anymore to live them. Because as a child, you have no option. Till the age of 7, you're programmed by epigenetics, and you were copying other people's scripts. But now when you do these treatments and you solve one by one and start cleansing a little, then you have a freedom to and a freedom from all these impulsive, compulsive, and unconscious games that we all play without even knowing it. That's the funny part. Everybody say, oh, my game is this and this. I say, you have no idea. When I did my treatment, my main game was between freedom and control. And Slavinsky did it on me. I'm like, no, I deserve better. You know, what do you mean freedom and control? What are polarities are there? Like, you know, and then it took me 2 years to realize everything I was doing in my life, everything was in association, main game that I played on all levels. I'm talking about money, friendship, relationship, work, emotions. Everything is based on these two games. I'll give you an example. Like, I own my own architectural company in the old town Budva in Montenegro, which is right on the water. 50 meters from the water is my office. So I had these, I will give my work, like I will do architectural design, and then I'll give it to my engineers. But I will be standing above their head, making sure they're not going to blow anything up for me. It's going to be just the way I did it. God forbid they move a wrong lane. But I didn't know I was doing it. For me, it was like, oh, I was good in business, you know. I was making serious money at the time. So what happens? My friends call up, my personal friends call, and they say, oh, we are the richest beach, which is 50 meters down my office. Come join us. So now, freedom and control. I'm thinking like, office, which was good because I was designing and being creative or whatever, was a wonderful thing for me. The beach was like whatever. But my friends called. All of a sudden, the beach looks good. Why am I wasting my time in the office? After all, this is my business. I can leave anytime I want to. Yeah? But then, yes, no, yes, no. Yeah, I'm going to go. So now the office is negative because it's draining me out while I'm thinking about beach where my friends are and then enjoying themselves. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's not like one is good, one is bad. They change polarities. Like, you know, Tesla's electricity goes like, you know, up and down. So all of a sudden I go to a beach and I'm with the girls. I inhale the sea water, the beach and water, everything's perfect. And I'm listening to their stories. And all of a sudden these girls are talking about certain bag. One paid $5,000 for a certain bag. Like I care, you know. And I'm like, what am I doing here? And then all of a sudden, my mind is in the office and I'm designing another building while sitting on a beach. So like for me, now beach is negative and my office is positive. Do you see what I'm saying? And we go like this infinitely. We go on and on and on, even in emotions. Like, you know, freedom and control, same game. You know, I see the guy I like, all of a sudden I'm free. But then I see people kissing on the street. I say, oh my God, that feels good. Now the love is plus. And be single, it's negative. So I find a man of my dreams, blah, 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 whatever. We date, and he asks, oh, nice cultural guy, asked me, how you been, where you been, who you been with, what did you eat, where'd you go? Yeah. I'm like, oh, what a control freak. Do you see what I'm saying? Those are the games that we play without realizing. And then I go to my freedom, I go to workshops, seminars, I read the book till midnight, whatever I want to do. And then I have freedom, but then after a while, I have no sex, no love, no this, no that. Oh, all of a sudden, this is plus, this is minus. And that's the game that we play on all levels in life. I did that with money. Remember my game? Being cheap and being generous, overcompensating. So you do it like here, I have freedom with money or I have control on money. Same thing really. It's a game that you play on all levels. So now mine was freedom and control. Some people have others. Whatever, fear, peace, there's so many polarities we're going to go through. But your life will change. It's really, you're going to see profound changes in your life. So people ask me, who comes to Peat? Who can study it? You have to be a psychologist, because I train a lot of psychologists, psychiatrists, and psychotherapists, and personal trainers. They're my biggest client. 80% of my business is that, training these people. So long story short, basically, we have attendees or people who come to the workshop who basically are lazy. You know, for 3-day weekend, you're basically solving 5 to 10, depending on my mood, but in average, let's say 5. Sometimes if I'm in a good mood, we're going to go 10. And I will solve 5 to 10 issues from your life, specifically. And you will basically neutralize the main unconscious game and 5 to 10 issues during these 3-4 days. each treatment costs $300, so figure out how much money you save just by being at the workshop. Also, another thing what happens in a workshop, remember that surrogate positioning? Every time you do a treatment on somebody else, that's a treatment you did to yourself. So just being present. I have some of my friends in Montenegro, men, who do not want to participate. I'm like, come on, do some treatment. They say, no, you guys are doing it for me. I see the change in my life. Let's say one guy in Montenegro was dealing with obesity, and then I realized, oh my God, I did the same treatment without actually doing it. But then you have freedom. I can have a chocolate whenever I feel like, or I don't. But it's not impulsive, compulsive, and by automatism. That's the difference. Then second, people who come to my workshop are people who want to do this professionally. So you're going to be certified Peat processors. What does that mean? That means you're going to go through the whole course. You're going to learn 9 different techniques because, as I said at the beginning, not every technique is for every person, and not every technique is for each problem. So you have to, hi Lucy. Welcome. Here's a seat. So you have to know more, because imagine if you know only one technique and a client comes in and that technique cannot be applied to that client or that problem, then you're stuck. You have to have an array of techniques just in case that you're well educated in all of this, so that you can rely on one or the other. A lot of psychologists are doing Peat, but they use it as a last resource because they lose a client afterwards. The problem is solved, they're gone. But it's a good reputation, though. So not only you're going to helping other people, by the way, yeah, you're going to make money. You charge in US $300 when you solve the problem, but you're also going to transform yourself. Because remember one thing, whoever comes to you to solve their problem, I guarantee you 100% that's your thing. No matter how strange it might look at the time, but when you go into introspective and you solve it, then you can realize, oh my God, this was my issue as well. Otherwise, there's no energy, emotional charge to be attracted by that client. They go somewhere else. I have a friend of mine, Tanya, who lives in Vienna, and she's like, oh, don't give me that stuff. I don't go to psychologists or anything. I'm like, why? She said, but every time I open up to my psychologist, she's judging me. I'm like, of course she's going to judge you, because that's her own issue that she cannot see. But she's so repelled by it when you were talking about it, because it's her own thing. Do you see what I'm saying? Everything in your life, it's your own thing. There's nothing that comes from the side. Everything comes from within. Reality, whatever's your internal projects your external. That's the bottom line. And the third group of people who normally come to my workshops are, of course, psychologists, psychiatrists, psychoanalysts, and personal trainers. So that's three categories of people who come to my workshop. And of course, America is mecca of seminars and workshops. I mean, we have in America seminars for everything and anything, realistically speaking. Give me any subject, you'll find a seminar on it. But the reality is that no matter what kind of education you get in any field, any kind of education, if you have suppressed emotion, and if you have suppressed emotion or something that's bothering you, you're not going to have any progress. Because remember that vicious cycle that you go through? Is it circle or cycle? Cycle. Vicious cycle that you go through? Basically, that's the game that you're playing over and over. And no matter what kind of education you get, it's not going to help you. Because sooner or later, let's say if I have belief structure, I'm not good enough, or I don't belong, whatever. Something that I picked up when I was 3 to 7 years old. Oh, whatever, maybe 33. So what happens is that, yeah, I can get training, I can get education. I have so many friends who finish the best schools in the world, but somehow they cannot excel. Something's blocking them within, and that's all comes from within. So only when you remove these obstacles, then the things will excel in your life. Before that, you can kiss it goodbye. So that's the bottom. So what's interesting with this, you remove the self-defeating patterns, self-beliefs, limiting beliefs, self-sabotages. What's interesting about us, Peat does not deal with the consequences. We do not care that much about consequences. We care about cause. Because I'm going to explain now the deep Peat method. For example, client comes to you and say, oh, I feel anxious because I was diagnosed with whatever. Every illness has a cause and emotion, by the way. So the client comes to you and you say, okay, I feel fear that I might die. That's often subject you're going to have when your clients come over. So that's the initial, what's that, consequence. So we start from there, and then from unconscious, all sorts of stuff start popping up. Then on a logical level, they're not connected. Like what this has to do with this. But the cause, when you come to the cause, it's the same cause for all of these consequences. When I did the Peat first time, I wrote down, I think it was 101 issues that I want to solve in my life. What else to say? But I realized that when I came down to 11th issue, it was already solved because the cause of these 101 was in these first 11. They were most dominant. And then when I continued doing the other issues that I wanted to solve, there was no charge there. There's nothing to solve because I already solved them with the previous problem that I was solving. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay, thank you. So protocol is fast, confidential, and powerful. And basically can be applied to anybody who finished the workshop. You don't have to study psychology for 5 years in order to excel in this. Anybody who can write and read and follow directions can do this. We can go next. Thank you. So basically what? You can solve subjective problems, trauma, negative past experiences, negative reactions and states, self-sabotaging patterns. You can improve effectiveness and efficiency, which is the most important thing. You can overcome phobias. Give me anything for you. You can easily help others. In the same time, you're basically helping yourself. Whatever I'm basically talking to myself. Imagine how hard case I am when I have so many people working with. What else to say? So you can acquire also desired skills. What's beautiful about Peat, we don't just remove the negative stuff from the issue. We remove the positive, charge from the positive elements. What you're going to experience, first time you do remove the charge from love, you're going to be amazed how much charge is in there. Because it doesn't matter if you want something good or bad, or if you feel something good or bad. Charge on both sides is blocking you to get things in your life. So the only things that come to your life are the comes that come to your life without expectations. Remember when people say, "Oh, give it up, the idea," and then it happens, happens. So what it is, when you remove charge from good and bad, then you can receive it. Because sometimes I want something so badly, like I want to date that guy so badly, there's no way he can see me because of all that energy and emotional charge around me. It's not letting them close to me. I want that business so badly. I want that project to complete so badly. What happens? There's no way. Why? Because energy and emotional charge is blocking me. So in Peat, we do not focus on cleansing the negative. We do not focus about suppressing the negative. We clean both. Human body is a battery, plus and minus. Every emotion produces the energy. When you're depressed, you produce what? 5 to 9 millivolts? What's that? There's no energy whatsoever. When you balance, maybe 100 to 300. When you go to basketball play, you know why they're selling the first seat courts so much, like $5,000, whatever the tickets are? Because these people are feeding from that energy. The energy from the basketball players they're emitting can be emitted up to 3,100. Walls can measure 270. Everything you do in life, you do for the energy. You talk for the energy. You feed yourself from the energy. You correspond. Everything is energy, vibration, and frequency. There's nothing else. Everything else is just an image. But the reality is that we are basically one being. What I mean by that is like, you have how many? 70 trillion cells in your body? Every cell in your body has a name and a function. How many people we have on the planet? Each person has a name and supposedly a function. So when you have a cancerous cells, and that cancerous cells will do anything and everything that can, how do you call it, spread itself to other cells. No, but like spread the illness. Yeah. Same thing with people. You have somebody in a bad mood, that person will do anything and everything in their power to make what? To spread that bad mood on you so they can feel release or they can equate. We can only see the same. So for example, have you ever experienced like you have 4 guys walking and one guy who wants to fight and he picks only one person? Why that one specific person? Because they have the same energy and emotional charge. I have one guy in Montenegro, he said, he's like a bodybuilder, whatever. So he said he always gets in trouble. Every day he has to get in fight, no matter what. He finished the workshop, he comes back a month later. He's like, oh, for 1 month, I have not fight with anybody. I said, how do you do it? He said, there's a joke, by the way, he came up with afterwards. I'll share it with you. He said, when somebody is bullying him, he's like, okay, man, I just realized what is it within me that needs to be changed. I can help you and change it within yourself, and we can work it out together. So he came up with this joke. He's in a nightclub discotheque. You know how it is in Montenegro, they're like, whatever, macho. So they're like pushing the shoulder one another. And the other guy's like, you have a problem? You know, like, you want to fight? You have a problem? He said, yeah, man, I have these problems. And then we were crying all night. That's a joke. Okay, that's not a Peat. All right, that's just a joke. I'm trying to. But anyway, you can eliminate emotional problems. Basically, you can grow with this technique in any direction you can, because you remove energy and emotional charge from your problem. So anything that has energy and emotional charge, which is everything in life, basically, you can remove with this. When you finish the workshop, you will get the written materials, technical instructions, step-by-step, and practical experience, of course. You will learn how to process yourself and others. You will get a free book. It's a digital book from Slavinsky. It's called Peat, The New Pathways. You'll be part of a WhatsApp group, which is the best thing. I have Europe, it's on Viber. But in America, we're making a WhatsApp group where basically you can, let's say I'm free from 2 to 5. And I'm free in that time. So I can send a text message. I'm free from 2 to 5. I want to do deep Peat on somebody. Is anybody willing to exercise this with me? Or vice versa. So you basically have free sessions with your colleagues, which is a very powerful thing. So, and it's valuable, the most valuable thing that we're offering here. Plus the knowledge. I mean, the knowledge is the most important thing. And then I also offer free repetition of the workshop. So anywhere I am, including the internet, we are downloading now technique by technique on the internet, and you're going to have access to that as well. So that's for step-by-step learning. And of course, you will get a certificate to be officially Peat processors, so you can work maybe on your family. You don't have to work with the clients, but you can solve issues with your children, with your neighbors, with your friends. Somehow last year was all about children for me in Montenegro, because I had one of my friends came along, and he said, my child is 8 years old, doesn't want to go to school. I'm like, okay. So, and I did DP4. So now I'm going to explain the DP4 technique, so you know later when we go to that, we can shift. So he comes, actually, you can go back. Okay, so he came to me, he said, I have a problem with my child because he's 8 years old and for 2 years he doesn't want to go to school. He cries every morning. We cannot do anything to get him to school. And even when he's there, he doesn't pay attention. I'm like, okay. So he brought the kid. I'm like, okay, is there anything you like to do? He's like, I love water polo. Okay, how do you feel when you play water polo? Oh, I'm happy, excited, ecstatic. I can't wait to go there. You know, I'm ready like 10 minutes before my dad's supposed to drive me there. I'm like, okay. So what I've done on one side, because Peat works with left and right hemisphere. One hemisphere is in charge of emotion, body sensation. Another hemisphere is in charge of thoughts and thoughts and pictures. So I said, okay, honey, let's put, how do you feel when you go to school? Oh, I hate it, it's boring, I want to kill myself, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we put that on one hemisphere, on one terminal. And another terminal, we put a situation where he loves to go to water polo. So what happens? He goes, the next morning, he goes home. I solved this for him. He goes home. His father calls me up. He said, what did you do to my child? I'm like, did you hypnose him or whatever? Because he was ready half an hour before he was supposed to go to school. Ready to go. Like, he was like happy-go-lucky. So he came the next time because he was addicted to the games, video games on computer, on the phone. And he didn't pay attention to school. So he brought him in and he said, oh, can you please fix his focus in school? I'm like, okay, honey, you like video? He told me also that he has an issue with video games. So on one terminal was gone. And then the third treatment I did on the child to get him off the games, then I did it on one side when he's so excited when he plays games, and on the other side when the games don't mean anything to him. We integrated that as well. So most people think that you transfer one thing to the other, but not really. Peat is something totally different. There's no change here. It's transference, it's transformation. So what I have done, I removed the charge from both. So that child has the freedom to be one and the other, whatever they want. Same thing with you. Like same thing I was talking about me, being frugal with money or being overcompensatingly generous with it. Same thing, I removed, and now I can be one or the other. And that's what it is, removing energy, because Peat is nothing else but removing energy and emotional charge, which is basically everything in your life. Everything is energy and emotional charge. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Okay, so now I can go explain step-by-step techniques. We're going to go through the workshop. First one is the basic Peat. That's basically the easiest method you will learn. But in the same time, I'm going to teach you one of my techniques that I did compilation of different techniques with Slavinsky. And then I say, oh, this is a better Peat technique. And then he said, oh, that's the main difference. So this easiest basically can be applied to anything that holds emotional and energy charge. And this is part of first level. So the treatment lasts 10 minutes to 40 minutes, depending how much charge is onto it. The second technique we're going to teach you that day is basic application of procedure of ET, basically. It's associated, you can remove any charge between 5 to 10 minutes from any situation. And what's interesting about this thing, not only it removes trauma from the past, but you can also use it to change the future. Let's say I'm going to a meeting, and in that meeting I have some attorneys or somebody waiting for me, and I know it's going to be bad. So I do the treatment before I even go there. And I remove energy and emotional charge. I show up there, everything is perfect. Or if I forget to do the treatment, and I'm already in a meeting, and everybody's like, you know, whatever, aggressive or whatever, some ambience that doesn't work for me, I say, okay, I gotta go out I gotta use the bathroom for 5 minutes. I go out, I do the treatment. In less than 5 minutes, I come back, situation is completely changed. It's not the same. So you can change the future with this as well. I did this and then my friends like, you did the treatment again, did you? Yeah. It's not magic. You have to do the treatment because what did I say before? You project your own reality into exterior. If I have fear they're going to charge me for the suitcase, I guarantee you they will. But if I remove that charge, then I have an option, maybe or not. Thank you. So you can change the future with these techniques. The third one I'm going to teach you is a small, it's called basically mini magical method. Realistically, transformation is small magical method, which basically allows you to remove any physical pain or emotional things. Sometimes when we do the treatment, clients get stuck with certain, let's say they have anxiousness, and that anxiousness doesn't want to go away. Then we do this method to remove that anxiousness, and then we go back to the previous methodology or techniques that you were applying to the client, and we finish with that other technique. Is this clear, or are you confused? And this is basically my gift to you. It's no charge. The second level, which will be the Sunday, basically we're going to do 2 techniques. We can go next. Thank you. So the second one we're going to do is a DP2 method. DP2 method is one of the simplest techniques. As I said, it works with the left and right hemisphere. And I do this treatment in a coffee shop or anywhere I am with my friends. When they start talking, I say, okay, let's not talk about a problem. Let's first solve it, and then we can talk. And then when you solve it, you don't talk about problem. You talk about something more constructive and something that's better for you. Why would you waste your time talking about problems you're going to solve 10 minutes later? There's no point. So I do this technique anywhere I go. It can work with acupoints or not. It doesn't matter, so you can apply it anywhere. And that's in a level 2 on Sunday. Then I'm teaching you level DP4, which according to me, or DP3, it's a mother of, I love it, because with these techniques, you can do wonders. You can change character traits, personalities, habits, whatever you don't like about somebody else, you fix that within yourself, and that disappears from your reality. If you want to enhance yourself, let's say I had a fear of public speaking. So on one side, I put myself, because I was doing the TED Talk, whatever you call it, and I couldn't do it because I was paralyzed at the stage. So what I've done, they say, okay, you can choose yourself on the other terminal when you were speaking comfortable in front of people. Or you can choose one person from your life that you know that's a good speaker. So I chose Tony Robbins. And ever since then, I've been talking fast. So, but what happens? It's not that I took his energy and implemented it to myself. I remove the blockages from one and the other, and then I can talk fast, I can talk slow, I can now do anything, but it's conscious. It's no longer automated by automatism, impulsive and compulsive. That's a big difference. You have freedom for and freedom for off. And then, third day, basically it's a fingertip method for removal, for trauma elimination. But this is only for major traumas like incest, rape, phobias, fear of death, funerals, something that's really, really major and the person's carrying with themselves so heavily. And what's interesting, give me any like a veteran or anybody who made some major stuff, I remove their problem in a couple of minutes. We're talking about 3 to 5 minutes max, because there's no talking. We bring them into that stage, we remove the charge from it, we break the charge and bring it back to today. This technique cannot be applied to yourself because it's spatial. So you can only work on somebody else with this technique. And the last technique we're going to do, and it's a third level, it's a Peat method. After I tried to explain at the beginning, Peat basically transforms your life. You will find out what your main unconscious game that you play on all levels. You don't even know that you're playing it, by the way. But once you do it, you'll be aware of it. And the whole, most people say it's like, some people get, I'm not going to say dislocated in a sense, because the field that you've been playing that game all your life disappears. The walls that you've been playing, like imagine now I'm in this house and now there's no more walls and I can't play my game anymore. And that's why some people feel offset for a couple of minutes right after the treatment. And one more thing, when you do the Peat method, we get into that polarity. Mine was freedom and control. There's so many of them. And then once you bring them into oneness, so remember, once I remove the charge in between freedom and control, well, they become one. And then you get in a place of oneness. I have some people who stay in that place for a couple of minutes. Some people stay for 2.5, 3 hours. Yogis stay there for a long time, by the way. And one of the yogis explained to me, he said, oh my God, this is like samadhi state. Samadhi is like, you have to study yoga for like 20 years in order to get to samadhi state. And he said, I get into this state in a couple of minutes instead of studying yoga for 20, 30, 40 years in order to get place. And it's not meditation state. We actually ask client, now when you're in this state, don't do that. Now when you're in that state, I ask client, okay, is there a difference between good and bad, male, female, beautiful and ugly, spiritual and material? He said, no, it's all one. Because in that space of oneness, duality does not exist. Don't do that. All right, so we can go further down. Those are the one of dualistic consciousness. It's a seesaw. It's a game that you play without even realizing it. So sometimes it's good and bad, beautiful, ugly, wealthy, poor, spiritual, material, destroying creation, advancing, retreating, freedom from slavery, love and freedom, love or death, I and you. There's so many. And by the way, the 6th Zen master stated, if each person that integrates 56 or 64, I forgot, that number, whatever that is, integrates within themselves, that person from that point on for the rest of their life will never, ever have issue on emotional, mental, or psychological, or even energy level. They're going to be completely balanced on all levels. And that's what Zen masters were doing for centuries. This is no news to us. We just presented, Slavinsky took something that's been 5,000 years old and presented to today's psychology so anybody can understand it. And that's a powerful thing. So this is what I already explained. Just before neutralization, there's a short period of confusion. Maybe you're dizzy, disoriented, whatever, which is natural because, as I said, when these walls falls down, there's no place. And you see, these codes predetermine the experience to which you will best advance in the material world, because that's the only thing that will give you, when you do the treatment, you will have pure freedom. Really, you're going to have freedom off those compulsions and impulsiveness, and you will have a freedom to be whatever you want to be. Because in reality, you are whole. The reason why you're limiting yourself, because you adopted, what did I say at the beginning? Your friends' experiences. Thank you. And what I mean by duality, Jean Piaget did experiment in psychology. He took children and he gave them blue and red pencils. And he asked them to calculate how many pencils were in there. You know that none of the kids can actually calculate the total number of pencils. They could say there was like 20 green or 20 red and I don't know how many, 30 blue, but they could not get a complete number. We do the same thing, really. Experience, the exaltation won't last long. It's not, you're going to be excited for the beginning, but not too long. But the whole life will become clear to you. That's the game that you were playing there. You can still play that game, by the way. I have a friend. Anyway, till recently, a small number knew about this process. And the reason it's simple, because neutralization of primordial polarities was a secret for many centuries between alchemy, Middle Age alchemy, Taoism, Zen, Kabbalah. They're all practicing it. through different ways. None of them actually did integration into oneness the way the Peat did. But the polarities they've been here for centuries, polarities. So the Stravinsky was the only one that had the guts. Even Jung was afraid of actual integration polarities, but Stravinsky had the guts to do the work completely. Method, you will never solve your most fundamental problem in life until you do neutralization between these two polarities you're playing main games. And so this is a workshop. It's one-time deal. There's nothing to be sold at the workshop. You learn, let's say, specific problem definition. So when friends comes to you and somebody says, oh, I feel tired today, I feel anxious, I feel whatever. So when a client comes to you with description, because every problem has situation and reaction. So when they tell you, I feel anxious today, what do they give you? They give you the feeling, the emotion. So in order to get the reaction, you ask whom and what do you feel that about? If somebody comes to you and say, oh, politics, school, my business, whatever, the only question you can use, and this is if you leave this place, and this is really the best thing you can learn, this technique, is you ask the client or friend or whoever, you ask the question, how do you feel about it? Let's say they're talking about politics or this and that. You ask them, how do you feel about it? I say, what are you asking me? It's not my problem. It's politicians' problem. No, but you're talking about it. So every time, or when they're talking about their neighbors, friends, or whoever, by the way, whenever people talk about other people, they're giving their own description. You know that. If they're saying it with a charge attached to it, it's their own description. If there's no charge, then it's just description. You see what I'm saying? Let's say I say, oh, that person is anxious, and I have no charge while I'm saying it. That means it's not my problem. I just notice the anxiousness because I already integrate with myself and I can realize what it is. But if I say, oh, this person is so anxiousness, then it's my issue. I'm giving you my own description because there's an emotional energy charge attached to it. So let's say somebody comes to you and they say, oh, I just saw my wife and my neighbor talking. And you see, there's charge there. And then you ask them, how do you feel about it? Oh, I feel jealousy, or I feel fear that she might leave me, or I feel whatever. And then you have definition problem. You say, okay, is it fair that we say the problem we're going to solve today is I feel fear or jealousy in regards to a situation where my wife is talking to my neighbor, or whatever that is. Thank you. So this is what I was talking before, who we are. It's epigenetics, We picked up everything around ourselves. I already talked about childhood. Delta and theta, you can't really hold the cigarettes in your mouth and say to the child, please don't smoke, because kids do everything they see. So whatever you're carrying right now, it's something you picked up from your epigenetics. None of that is yours. You live it and you interject it into yourself and you think it's yours, but none of it's yours. And of course, in order to sustain, you have to find the evidence, and then you find more and more evidence. So let's say my aunt comes to me and says, oh, honey, you're so shy, and I'm like, oh, really? Whatever. So I go to school and then let's say some guy looks at me, I put I look down and I say, oh my God, I'm shy. And then I go to high school and then oh my God, I'm shy, and more, 19 years old, 20, I started dating at 24. So 24 years old, somebody asked me to go out on a date. I'm like, no, I'm really shy. Such thing doesn't exist. Where'd you see shy genes? Do they exist or anything like that? So it doesn't really exist, but I adopted it and I was nurturing it as it was part of my personality. Do you see what I'm saying? None of it is yours. Nothing that you're carrying right now is yours to start with. And this is the most important thing that I said before. If you remember anything, it's not other people who create experiences in your life. It's suppressed emotion. Remember, let's say I'm a hole, I'm a circle. Let's say this. All right, let's say I'm here. So imagine this is a circle. Basically, you are infinite and timeless, by the way. But then I have this, when I was small, my mom said, oh, that's not for you. I'm immediately, my message as a 3-year-old, because reference point child of a 3-year-old is what? I don't belong, I'm not loved, she does this. So I put that aspect of me attached to me. So that aspect follows me everywhere I go. But I don't want to acknowledge it because that's not who I am. I'm nice, sweet, whatever. So you have all these aspects and all these suppressed emotions that we carry with us everywhere we go. And those emotions are saying, wait a minute, I'm part of a whole, because they are. We are one. We are oneness. Everything is just one. Remember that cell that I was telling you about? the cancer cells that want to poison the other cancer cells, they're all making one body. They're all making my body. We all have cancer cells in our body. So they all make my body. And they're governed by my supposedly head, but the brain is just a receptor. Nothing comes really from your brain. So, and the same thing with people on the planet. You know, you have these people who are in a bad mood and they want to ruin your day. What is that? It's also cells. Your interior projects your exterior. Whatever is happening within you has to be projected outside. And they're all governed by what? We all make one being in reality. So we carry all these things. And one thing that you know, there's no good or bad people. Oh, I gotta go. Okay. I gotta go. I'm done. All right. So just remember this. There's no good and bad people. There are only people who are balanced and people who are not balanced. Same thing with that cell, cancer cell. That cancer cell is out of balance, and that's why it's spreading around. Same thing with people. You have, when people are unbalanced, when their main things are not fulfilled, when their needs are not fulfilled, that's when they get this balance. So when you're seeing a mad person or whatever, remember just one of their needs is not balanced. So just ask him, how can I help you? What's your need that I can fix within you? That's simple. Because the reality is that, remember that good and bad, it's a coin, one coin with two sides. You cannot have more good than bad, no matter how much you try. It's the same coin. It has to grow in the same proportion. So when you see somebody who's suffering or somebody who's doing whatever, going through a bad time, be grateful because they chose to play their role so you can experience something else. And the only thing that will stop playing that game is if you integrate that within yourself, and that disappears from your reality. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay. So we can go further down. Oh, and that's another thing. It's the same thing, really. You all know this from psychology. Most people, we like to judge other people and see things in other people. But whatever we judge or we don't like about somebody else, we basically send contradictory message to our unconscious that if I succeed, let's say, oh, that guy's a billionaire or whatever, and he has this and this and this, but I talk about it with like charge to it, my conscious and unconscious will do everything and anything for me to never be a billionaire. Why? Because you cannot really pray for one thing and on the other thing judge the same thing. You're sending contradicting messages to your unconscious. But the reality is projected from your suppressed internal experiences. That's the bottom line. Everything that's happening in your life right now came from within, no matter how that neighbor appears to you right now, or from mother or father or whoever. So everything is reflected to our reality. Oh, this is what I wanted to show you before. So in Harvard Medical School, they did experiments with the kittens, and one room was only horizontal lanes, and another set of kittens, they had the vertical lanes. And when the kids were kittens, or cats, sorry, my English, what happens when they're grown up, they perceive reality with their senses as same as they were when they were little. You know, they programmed their nervous system so they can only see in vertical or horizontal lanes. In such way, they serve, and this is only one purpose, and this is what they're doing to us, by the way. It's called, not only your nervous system was programmed in your childhood, but it's called to reinforce the initial interpretation. It has to stay in your life. So if you think they're good and bad people, you still believe that and you play that game. But the reality is, it's premature cognitive conditioning. We all been conditioned to believe there's somebody else who's bad, somebody else who's whatever, negative. I'm positive they're bad, or whatever. But that apparatus of perception is shaped early in our experiences, and basically it's our neurological structure, and it's fixed into our reality. We're basically experiencing, this is the most important thing, just to make you aware that whatever you're carrying right now, it's basically implemented in you through the premature cognitive condition. Thank you. The M theory. I'm you, me, there's no difference really. I really love how many people know the string theory, the M theory here? Okay, so there were 5 string theories from 75 to 95, and they didn't figure out which one is the one. You know, they were all right, but they couldn't figure out which one is the one. So the Whitten came in, I think he was doing it at USC, and he presented it so wonderfully that I used that presentation in psychology today. He said they're all the same. How? He said, imagine how do you call this, mirrors, funny mirrors? If you go to a room with funny mirrors, and you have a young girl, and the young girl is sitting in the middle, and you have 5 different mirrors. In one mirror, she's fat. Another one, she's skinny. Another one, she's whatever. Any different projection. But he said, you know what? It's the same girl. You're not the same in your mom's eyes. You're not the same in your lover eyes. You're not the same in your teacher's eyes. You project yourself differently in anybody's eyes. But who's a common denominator here? It's you. It's all about you. There's nothing else but you. So, and everything is encoded in our nervous system, but as a children, we have no filters. We only know what's good and bad. And that's what we've been conditioned since the young age. And what happens first becomes the standard for the rest of your life, that you measure everything according to that. Let's say I grew up in a family where, like, father was violent, physically violent. For me, that was normal to me, and they just got slammed. There's a different references point. You know what I'm saying? But for me, it was a normal thing. I didn't know for any better. You see what I'm saying? Everybody grows up in a certain ambience, and we think that's a standard, and we measure everything by that, including your mom's cooking. Remember? Nobody cooks as well as your mom. So that's what we do. We unknowingly sorting things out. Thank you. So remember at the beginning I said that we live in duality, but at the same time we live in oneness. So I use this as an example because our interior projects exterior. So when you recognize you in me and me in you, you will understand the truth. But only when you accept me and I accept you, you will feel love. Do you see what I'm saying? So when you have that neighbor that drives you crazy and you accept them for being whatever, and you let them accept you as you are, and then you can feel love. Till then, you cannot really feel the love. But the photo that you see over there describes, from quantum mechanics, tells that now light can behave simultaneously as a particle and as a wave. Same thing with us. You live in oneness and you live in duality. Do you see what I'm saying? It's all you. You created me and the person that's sitting next to you. You created all of this. It's all about you. Thank you. And she's like, oh, that person doesn't believe in God. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. There's God in each of us. If you remember one thing, remember a lot of people are aware that a power of ocean is, and the power of drops in its ocean, but not that many people are aware that the power of ocean is each drop. So we're basically part of the same thing, expressed in different shapes and forms. You know, I might come in different size than you, but in reality, it's all one. And that's the oneness that I'm talking about. But this, whatever facade, ego state that I'm living, thinks that I'm separate from you. And that's where duality comes in the picture. But there's never two. There's always third element. And the third element is emotional and energy charge that keeps that game happening. With these techniques, what's happening? You can remove that energy and emotional charge.
Seminars, sessions, and that's it.
No. I said, first time when you do the Peat method, you're going to find out what your main unconscious game that you play on all levels in life. And so you will no longer play that game. You're done with that game forever. That's what's the most important thing. But the issue that you were solving. So when you do the Peat method, you can choose any problem you're going to solve. Let's say I feel whatever. I don't know. I feel insecure in regards to certain things. Okay. So that's my subject that I want to solve. And then I start working on that insecurities, whatever that is, and it come down to solve the problem. The cause of that problem might not be anything close to what I'm thinking, but it will find out what my main unconscious game is that I play impulsively, compulsively by automatism. I don't even know I'm playing it. And in the same time, I solve this problem. So you don't have just one thing in life. You have so many things you accumulated. So the easiest way to notice these things is when you see them in other people, or when you see them in your surroundings, or how you feel about that too. Sometimes just the emotion. How do I feel about that person doing this and this? And once you remove that energy charge from that thing, that's how you change reality. That's
and so what you're saying is that you can learn.
It's a constant thing. That's why I'm.
The techniques, and you can do them on yourselves for free because it can be also.
Exactly. That's why I'm getting you. Yes, that's why I'm getting you the WhatsApp group where you do treatments on one another, unlimited. Whatever you guys want to do is how many you want to do it. because you save $300 every time you do the treatment. That's one thing. And the second thing is that you also grow with that. You change yourself completely. You never stop growing. That's one thing. And you don't have just 1 or 2 or 7 issues in life. I'm guarantee you we have plenty of those. And if you go to a seminar and you actually learn the techniques, what happens is you will have knowledge. So let's say I go somewhere and I'm at some party and something happens. 2 people fight. I go to the bathroom or anywhere else, I do the treatment on them, I come back, that's a better situation. So as stuff start popping up, you do one thing at a time. But this is what's important, it's knowledge. If you know the techniques, you can apply them right away. You do not have to wait until your psychologist is ready or whatever. I don't know, couple of people, they want me to do treatment on their behalf, or they want me to treat them or whatever. And I'm like, that's kind of costly. It's so much cheaper if you learn it, because by treating them, somebody else, you did the same thing within yourself. Because imagine it's not just your own stuff, it's stuff from your ancestors and everything else that we accumulate, and it's transferred from generation to generation to generation to generation, and we carry all of that as it's our own. And that's the thing.